So, as far as interviews go, there's two types, and you guys I think will be focusing on the profile one, but it's good to understand the difference between the two. So, a news interview, pretty straightforward. There's usually some reason you're talking to somebody who's in charge of something or somebody who's been affected by something, and you can kind of get their experience. A profile is more looking at individuals. You're developing a story, you're creating a narrative about an individual. It usually plays off a news peg. A news peg is generally like, what are people talking about? What's the big thing in news? So if I want to do a profile on somebody who's been affected by the healthcare changes, right? The news peg would be healthcare changes. And the profile would be me talking with that one person who's been affected. Does that make sense? What you want. Now what about, what would be the advantage of a police chief talking with the media? Doing an interview.
Well, if you're talking about the particular issue that's of importance to the police chief, then that's bringing awareness to it. It's giving exposure to the department, especially if it puts them in a good light.
Yeah, if it puts
or
them in a
if
good
it's
light.
countering something that's in a bad light.
Right. So, and be aware that there are advantages and disadvantages for everybody who conducts some sort of interview with a media professional, because that material is going to be used in some way. So it's not always advantageous immediately. You know, it could be more just a matter of community safety with the police officer. That could be an advantage as a community member. So think about all the advantages that you bring to your interviewee when you turn the mic on or when you bring your pen and paper out. And that way, you know, should you kind of lose track or kind of go off track, and they feel cagey about it all of a sudden, you can remind them, like, here's some of the value of this interview, here's some of the value of this piece, right? Any reactions to the way Terry is conducting this interview? Anything she's doing correctly?
I like that in a way she's asking aggressive questions, but the way she's doing it's so subtle, and because she's done her background, she knows that it's going to lead into this more emotional material without getting into things or saying, like, tell me about this, or like, is this something that still bothers you? And so it has this very intimate feel, but without actually being aggressive.
Yeah, and that's sort of her calling card. Good person to learn from when it comes to interviewing, yeah.
The tone that she uses sounds almost like a counselor or a friend. She doesn't sound like it's like rapid fire questions. It's more like urging it out of him in a comforting tone, like as if like saying, I'm someone you can confide in and I am empathetic to your problems, and it really came across that way.
Like she actually cares.
Yeah. Trying to help him or something like that.
And so her technique for introducing those questions, a lot of times she'll back it up with, so you said this in your book, you said this in your book, so tell me about that. So she kind of sets it up, sort of primes her interviewee for where she's taking it. And then by the time she drops the question, he's ready to talk.